Culling teams have today resumed aerial shooting operations to rein in Brumby numbers in Kosciuszko National Park. The latest Brumby count estimates between 6,000 and 16,000 feral horses are roaming in the park. Environmental groups saying numbers have exploded following a 2-year pause on culling.
Hello, I'm Linton Besser. Welcome to Media Watch and welcome to the return of the Brumby Wars, with the country's most tabloid embarking on a fresh campaign not to save Australia's majestic high country, but to save those majestic animals destroying it and bringing out the big guns to help.
Ban from Snowy River.
Exclusive. Acting legend calls cut on barbaric cull of Brumbies.
Because who better to offer their expertise than actor Tom Burlinson, the famed man from Snowy River, who had some hard truths for the New South Wales government.
Burlinson said there was no way that the Brumbies could be shot quickly and humanely from helicopters flying overhead.
His qualifications thus established, the actor had another, even more stunning insight.
During his time filming The Man from Snowy River in Victoria's high country, he saw that the landscape could support space for Brumbies.
That's right, plenty of room 44 years ago in another state altogether. The star's impassioned defence of the Snowy Mountain Brumbies was but one part, however, of a Telegraph series which claimed previous aerial culling had created a Brumby bloodbath that was cruel and unreliable, horses left to die with broken limbs. 9 days ago, the paper's editor made clear his position.
The wild Brumby is an icon of Australia, an untamed symbol of our rough and rugged land.
Yes, try, if you can, to name an animal more Australian than a horse. Former shock jock Ray Hadley saddled up too, taking the Telegraph's readers into the heart of the conspiracy.
But why are they intent on doing it? Well, here's the reason. You see, these beautiful Brumbies are a link to our colonial past. A link. So anything to do with our colonial past, out the door it goes, including the poor Brumbies down there at Kosciuszko.
Over on 2GB, Hadley's replacement on the wireless was outraged horses were in the crosshairs and not hogs.
All the while you got the feral pigs running around doing their thing. We got helicopters up there shooting them? Don't think so.
Only problem, Mark, is that's exactly what we have. The aerial shooting of a range of feral species, including deer, goats and, yes, pigs, which Mark admitted just 5 minutes later on air after a phone call with the New South Wales government, but which didn't stop his team an hour after he got off air from republishing his clever tirade across social media. As the government's wild horse management plan sets out, the program is designed to protect some of Australia's most precious ecosystems where several threatened species are at risk, in particular from feral horses, which saw little emphasis over the past 2 weeks as the Telegraph cleared space for plenty of the anecdotes of those dead set against the cull. Brumby protest organisers, the Brumby Alliance, a horse trainer and an unnamed whistleblower who claimed to have been involved in a previous and distressing Brumby cull, but whose role and whose employer was never revealed. Unfortunately, however, the paper found no room for the findings of the most recent and comprehensive independent review of the aerial culling program undertaken by an independent vet who, having observed 3 days of shooting, found no evidence of wounded horses and a notable absence of adverse animal welfare events. And as for this claim from a ballistics expert that
If it took an average of 7 shots to kill a horse, and up to 15 on occasions, then something was not working properly.
it too was explicitly addressed by a government inquiry back in 2023, a National Parks official explaining,
It did not take an average of 7.5 bullets to achieve insensibility or death. Statements to this effect are wrong. Median time was 5 seconds. The purpose of the additional bullets is to provide certainty that the animal is dead.
which the Telegraph chose not to report. It was also unwilling to print an op-ed proffered by the Invasive Species Council, an environmental lobby group, and sent on day 2 of the Telly's campaign, until last Saturday, after we'd asked why the offer had been ignored. We, meanwhile, heard naught from the paper to that question and several others, but a wintry mountain breeze. If your only goal is outrage and popularity, the Telegraph's campaign is very nifty. Who likes the idea of horses being shot? But doesn't a newspaper have any other kind of obligation? What about showing the courage, because that's what it takes, to make sure readers get the full set of facts, even those, especially those, they might not very much like? Now we turn to a difficult and complex injustice being perpetrated on some Australian women by an obscure international treaty and exposed on Channel 9.
On 60 Minutes.
I've been robbed of my choice to be a mum.
Torn from their mother's arms.
And I've never seen her since.
Australian children sent overseas.
She has told me how he has hit her.
Back to their allegedly violent fathers.
This harrowing episode 3 weeks ago told the stories of Kate and Joanne, both pseudonyms. Two women caught up in separate international custody disputes. Their children, born overseas, sent back by the family court to their countries of birth and to allegedly abusive fathers.
How is this even possible? A 3-year-old girl being torn from her mother's arms by Australian police.
This is the day that she was taken, and I've never seen her since.
At the heart of the story, an international legal agreement, the 46-year-old Hague Convention on Child Abduction, which was
Originally designed to return children who'd been snatched by fathers and taken overseas during custody battles. But now, in a callous reversal, the allegedly abusive fathers are using the Hague Treaty against their former partners.
60 Minutes was on good ground to investigate this phenomenon after calls for significant law reform to protect women fleeing domestic violence. But did it accurately and fairly report what occurred in both women's cases? Kate alleged her ex-partner
He would physically restrain me and force himself. It's very scary when you're in such a position because it feels like your life is literally in his hands.
Joanne, meanwhile, aired grievous allegations about her ex-husband.
He had told me that he knew where he could bury me and get away with it. No, he had told me to not bother calling the police because he had already gotten out of 3 other rapes.
Claiming also that her daughter is now suffering abuse at the hands of that very man.
It's conversations like this one that truly horrify her.
What happened to your mouth?
She has told me how he has hit her, and he has hit her hard, and the bruises and marks on her body confirm her words.
Clearly, highly distressing allegations. But what did Kate and Joanne's ex-partners have to say about them? 60 Minutes viewers were never told because 60 Minutes never asked. And it was far from the only problem in this story, which incredibly failed to report key findings of the family court in both cases, which is why, in a highly unusual move 2 weeks ago, the court itself published a stinging rebuttal of Nine's journalism. Because while family violence can be grounds for refusing to send children overseas, the court revealed
The exceptions were not pursued on family violence grounds in either of the cases reported.
there were glimpses of this uncomfortable truth in the program.
I was not even allowed to submit the evidence of the domestic violence.
Joanne had the same experience.
But in Kate's case, 60 Minutes failed to tell viewers that while she'd promised at least twice to provide evidence her child would be unsafe in the care of her ex-partner in Belgium, she
failed to file any application in the appeal proceedings to adduce further evidence pertaining to alleged family violence.
Another judge later ruling,
I do not have any information that would suggest that this child is not currently in safe and secure circumstances in Belgium.
In Joanne's case, which by coincidence also involves an ex living in Belgium, the court had in fact made explicitly adverse findings about her credibility, which 60 Minutes did not report, including that her claims were found
to be exaggerated. My impression of the mother in the witness box is that she was prepared to concoct evidence when she perceived it would be in her interest to do so.
In contrast, Justice Victoria Bennett accepted the father's vehement denials he was ever controlling or rough with their child, finding him to be truthful and frank. Despite admitting to having thrown a suitcase during an argument, though not in Joanne's direction, the father was not found, as outlined in another judgment the following year, to pose a threat to the mother's safety. And when Adam Hegarty reported that,
just months before giving birth, she says her partner coerced her to travel to Belgium.
He failed to tell his viewers the Justice had ruled on this exact point in a judgment upheld on appeal.
I do not accept that the mother was forced or coerced to go to Belgium. She made concessions in the face of evidence which proved to be contrary.
In the end, Joanne had sought an exemption from the Hague Convention not on the grounds of violence, but on the grounds that her child's Aboriginality would receive less emphasis in a Belgian courtroom, which failed to satisfy the legal test to keep the child in Australia. Most heartrending in 60's story, the moments these women had their children ripped from their arms. But the program failed to give its viewers the full picture as to why and how this occurred, because both had been offered fully funded travel and money for living expenses to accompany their children overseas, where any potential custody disputes could be settled under Belgian law. The family court's rebuttal of the 60 Minutes program explaining,
the mothers chose not to accompany them on the plane or return to Belgium to be with their child.
In reporting these tragic cases involving families in great distress, such deliberate omissions of crucial context and detail were a grave lapse of journalistic standards and were unnecessary, as 60's own Channel 9 stablemate, A Current Affair, demonstrated when it covered Joanne's story 3 years ago using much of the same footage and managed to give viewers the full picture.
In her findings, the judge's impression of the mother was she was trying to rewrite history and considered her to be an unreliable witness. The father, who vehemently denied behaving in a way that was coercive, controlling, was found to be a reliable witness who gave his evidence in a considered way.
A Nine spokesperson told us the fathers in each case were not contacted by 60 Minutes for reasons of privacy, and that the women it featured had
attempted to raise domestic violence concerns as well as fears for their children. The story did not suggest that the women were believed by the judges. It suggested the opposite. The women shared their personal experiences in family law proceedings, which were not exhaustively captured by published judgments.
There is compelling research which suggests the Hague Convention is sometimes returning women and children to abusive men. It seems reform is needed. But this flagship television program, with its long and storied reputation, must do better and actually report what the courts have found, inconvenient as those findings might be to the women involved and to the program's central thesis. To do otherwise is failing its audience and actually undermining the case for change. And finally tonight, to Queensland and the fevered countdown to last week's crucial second Origin contest.
Good evening, I'm Steve Hart. Welcome to Win News. Also tonight, the Maroons are taking it easy ahead of the blockbuster Origin 2 in Melbourne tonight.
Last Wednesday night, viewers of Win News regional broadcast across Queensland, from Maroochydore to Townsville, were treated to a countdown to the Maroons' revenge just hours away.
It all goes on the line for Queensland in just over 2 hours, with State of Origin 2 taking place in front of 90,000 fans at the MCG.
Exclusively live coverage of Origin 2 gets underway at 7 o'clock tonight on Win.
And there are few places that barrack louder for the Maroons than the Darling Downs, where Win News' loyal viewers in Toowoomba We're also settling in for the latest Wednesday night news on the Maroons squad ahead of the game.
Good evening, I'm Steve Hart. Welcome to Win News.
It's a must-win for the Maroons in Melbourne tomorrow.
State of Origin Game 2 will be broadcast exclusively live on the Win Network tomorrow with coverage from 7 p.m.
Tomorrow? But didn't these guys just say the game was hours away? Those Toowoomba viewers who shrugged their shoulders and pushed on into the Wednesday weather were greeted with this.
Welcome back. It was a partly cloudy Tuesday across the region with light showers about the west. And Peter sent in this beautiful shot of the sunrise.
Tuesday? And hold on, wasn't Peter's beautiful shot of the sunrise on last night's weather? Yes, it was. Because in fact, Win News repeated not just its sports segment, but its entire bulletin 2 nights on the trot, prompting much bafflement at home.
Was there no new news today?
I thought I was in the Matrix.
We sent questions to Win TV, but it wouldn't say a word about its blunder because maybe nobody noticed. In any case, we're certain the boo-boo had nothing to do with the fact the Toowoomba Bulletin is not actually recorded in Toowoomba or anywhere in Queensland, but more than 700 kilometres away in Wollongong, New South Wales. And nothing to do either with savage job cuts 5 years ago, which Win pledged would not prevent it from delivering
the most important local stories from all of our regions.
So important, they're worth repeating 2 nights in a row. And that's all from us tonight. Be sure to check us out on ABC iView, as well as YouTube, Facebook and also Reddit. You can find full statements on our website. And don't forget to send us your tips. See you next week.